Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into the lush, untamed heart of Honduras, where the air is thick with humidity, and every leaf seems to whisper secrets of an ancient world. You're not exactly on a luxury vacation, no umbrella drinks, no beachfront yoga retreats. Instead, you're here on a quest that feels equal parts Indiana Jones and a budget travel vlog to search for the fabled lost city of the monkey god. And let's be real, this is the kind of place where your deodorant taps out by the second hour, leaving you in a state of perpetual dampness, sticky and slightly suspicious of every buzzing sound in the undergrowth. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to comment where you're listening from, like which city, what time, maybe the exact temperature, so we can all feel a little less alone in our mutual sweatiness. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push aside a curtain of vines, their tendrils reaching for you like nosy neighbors with too much time on their hands, and step into a clearing where the air feels heavy with ancient breath. The jungle here is alive with sounds. Crickets chirping like tiny maracas, leaves rustling under the weight of unseen creatures, and the occasional shriek of a howler monkey that's had one too many cups of jungle espresso. You wonder if you've stumbled into some kind of prehistoric rave. But the truth is, this place hasn't changed much in centuries. The ground beneath your boots is a patchwork of roots, mud, and the occasional sharp rock that makes you question every life decision leading to this very moment. It's a place where history seeps from every branch and stone, a place where your sweat mixes with centuries of human endeavor, some of it glorious, some of it downright grim. The locals call it Ciudad Blanca, the White City, though ironically there's not a white wall in sight, just the green on green of nature's endless embrace. You're pretty sure the name is more legend than fact, a marketing gimmick cooked up by early explorers who wanted to make their travel blogs pop. But here you are, standing where they once stood, feeling the same mixture of awe and mild gastrointestinal distress. You remember reading about the first European accounts, conquistadors stumbling through the jungle with dreams of gold and glory, only to find malaria and disappointment. Some even wrote letters home promising riches beyond belief, though most ended up sending back nothing but their regrets and a few exotic diseases. It's a humbling reminder that, while we like to think of ourselves as the heroes of our own stories, sometimes we're just the latest in a long line of sweaty, mosquito-bitten daydreamers. The jungle hums around you like 1,000 tiny engines, each insect and bird and slithering thing playing its part in the grand orchestra of decay and renewal. You catch a glimpse of something, maybe a stone carving half hidden beneath a tangle of roots, maybe just your overactive imagination conjuring shapes from shadows. Either way, your heart gives a little leap, the same way it does when you find that last slice of cold pizza in the fridge. Except this time it's not cheese you're unearthing. It's history raw and mysterious, like the final episode of a true crime podcast with no satisfying conclusion. And let's not forget the bugs. The bugs here aren't your friendly neighborhood houseflies. These are the special forces of the insect world, armed with the kind of stingers and biting mechanisms that would make even the toughest action hero reconsider his career. They're like tiny buzzing hypodermic needles, and you're the unwitting test subject. At least you packed that artisanal bug spray that smells like a failed spa experiment. Too bad the bugs think of it more as salad dressing than a deterrent. Somewhere, deep inside, you can't help but feel a thrill, like you're the star of your own National Geographic special, minus the camera crew and catering. You imagine yourself on the cover of some dusty old adventure novel, machete in hand, eyes squinting dramatically into the jungle haze. Except, of course, you're wearing sweat-stained cargo shorts, and your backpack is mostly filled with trail mix and a half-dead flashlight. As you take a moment to catch your breath, you recall that weird piece of trivia you read online. Some ancient explorers supposedly smeared fish poop on their skin as a kind of early sunscreen. You shudder at the say. Thought, hoping you packed enough SPF 50 to avoid becoming a cautionary tale for future travelers. Still, there's something comforting about knowing that even the boldest adventurers had to deal with the same petty annoyances you're facing now. Historians still argue about whether this city actually existed as a single cohesive settlement, or if it was a loose collection of ceremonial sites scattered like breadcrumbs through the forest. Either way, it's enough to keep your mind busy while your body wades through mud, the consistency of half-melted chocolate ice cream. You push forward, the weight of your backpack pulling at your shoulders like an over-enthusiastic toddler demanding attention. Each step feels like a small victory, a reminder that the past is never as far away as we think, and that sometimes the only way to find it is to get a little uncomfortable. And so you continue, your steps echoing the footsteps of explorers, treasure hunters and dreamers before you. The jungle swallows you whole, but you walk on, determined to find the secrets that lie hidden beneath its emerald canopy. The sun dips lower, casting long, slanted shadows that make even the most innocent tree trunk look vaguely sinister, and yet something inside you feels lighter, like you're on the cusp of a discovery that will change everything. You take one last look around, noting the dance of insects in the dying light, the smell of damp earth mingling with your own sweat, and determination. The night ahead is uncertain, but one thing's for sure, you've only just begun to peel back the layers of this ancient mystery. The night wraps around you like a damp velvet cloak, thick with the scent of moss and decaying leaves. You pick your way through the jungle in near darkness, guided by the soft glow of a firefly or two, nature's way of telling you that batteries don't last forever. Every step feels like a gamble, each root and vine a potential invitation to an unscheduled faceplant. You wonder for a fleeting moment if this was how early explorers felt, trudging through unfamiliar lands with only moonlight and a half-baked sense of optimism to keep them company. The air hums with nocturnal life, frogs singing like drunken choir boys, crickets rubbing their legs in frantic applause, and the occasional flutter of something with too many wings. It's the kind of soundtrack that would send your average city dweller diving under the covers. But out here, it feels like a lullaby, an ancient chorus that has played for centuries. You pause, hand on a moss-covered tree trunk, and imagine the generations who have passed through this forest, the native peoples who once called this place home, the Spanish conquistadors who saw gold in every glint of light, and the modern-day adventurers who, like you, seek a glimpse of the past in the shadows of the present. You think of the stories they left behind, some carved into stone, others whispered from parent to child around smoky fires. Legends of a city built by monkey gods, a place of both wonder and terror. Some said it was a paradise of white stone and glittering gold. Others claimed it was a cursed domain, guarded by spirits eager to punish the greedy. The truth, of course, is likely somewhere between travel brochure and horror movie. But in the dark, with the wind carrying voices you can't quite place, it's hard not to believe in curses. As you stumble over a particularly unhelpful route, you remember that famous conquistador, Hernán Cortés, who once claimed to have heard tales of the White City from local tribes. He was probably imagining a second Tenochtitlan, a treasure trove to fill his already bulging pockets. History tells us he never found it, but that didn't stop others from trying. Some spent their entire lives chasing this jungle phantom, leaving behind only maps that led nowhere and journals filled with fevered dreams. You wonder if you'll end up in one of those footnotes someday. Unknown explorer, believed to have vanished while looking for a city made of monkey-shaped gold statues. The bugs are relentless, drawn to your sweat like teenage girls to a pop concert. You slap at them half-heartedly, your arm feeling like a fly swatter in slow motion. Remember that fact you read about those ancient jungle folk? They used a paste, made of crushed leaves and fish scales to keep the insects away. The thought of slathering yourself in fish paste is almost enough to make the bugs seem like a minor inconvenience. Almost. A flicker of movement catches your eye. A small stone structure, barely visible through the undergrowth. It's no gleaming white city, but it's something. You push aside the leaves and see it. A squat, moss-covered altar, its carvings worn smooth by centuries of rain and sun. A face peers back at you from the stone, a monkey, its features stylized and slightly menacing. Its wide eyes seem to follow you as you circle it, like the world's creepiest tour guide. You wonder what stories this monkey has witnessed, what rituals were performed at its feet. Maybe sacrifices, maybe blessings, maybe just the ancient equivalent of a Friday night social hour. You run your fingers over the carvings, feeling the fine lines that once meant something profound. Historians still argue about whether these were sites of worship or simply markers of territory, a reminder that even the experts can't agree on the basics. It makes you feel a little better about your own confusion. If the professionals can't figure it out, what chance do you have with your crumpled map and half-dead flashlight? Somewhere in the distance, you hear the low growl of an animal, maybe a jaguar, maybe your imagination playing tricks on you. Either way, it's enough to make you tighten your grip on your pack and check your surroundings twice. You remember that old explorer's tale about a man who claimed to have seen a giant white monkey that could speak like a man. Sure, it's probably nonsense, but in the jungle at night, with shadows stretching in every direction, every leaf and branch feels like a potential threat, or at least an invitation to a very bad night's sleep. The altar stands silent, its secrets locked behind centuries of moss and mystery. You wonder who built it, who worshipped here, and whether their dreams were any different from yours. Did they stand here and wish for safety, for rain, for love? Or were they hoping to keep some ancient curse at bay? The questions spin around in your head like moths around a candle, each one glowing for a moment before fading into the darkness. You take a deep breath, the air thick and heavy in your lungs. The jungle feels closer now, as if the trees themselves are leaning in to listen to your thoughts. You think about those early explorers again, how they must have felt balancing hope and fear with every step. Some of them probably didn't make it out alive. You hope your story ends with a flight home and a decent cup of coffee, not a cautionary tale whispered by campfire light. But even now, a small part of you thrills at the unknown. The possibility that just around the next bend, the lost city of the monkey god waits, hidden beneath centuries of green. You push on, your steps slow but sure, determined to find what others only dreamed of. The night holds its breath, and you hold yours. As the jungle closes in around you, you awaken in the grey hush of early dawn, the damp earth clinging to your skin like a second, less welcome layer. The jungle is still, save for the occasional rustle of leaves as a lizard scurries by, its tail like a flickering candle flame. You stretch your arms, wincing as your muscles protest the night's hard ground and the too real memory of that jaguar's growl. A chorus of birds begins their morning performance, each note sharp as flint in the humid air. It's the kind of alarm clock no snooze button can silence. Pushing yourself upright, you glance around at the tangled greenery that seems to have grown a little closer overnight, like the forest itself is trying to swallow you whole. A chill skitters down your spine despite the sweat still clinging to your neck. You remind yourself that the ancient peoples who once thrived here knew this land intimately. They carved pathways through the jungle, traded with distant neighbors, and built cities that rivaled anything the Spanish could imagine. Historians still debate whether they truly believed in the monkey god, or if it was just a metaphor for something else like taxes or their mother-in-law. You chuckle at the thought, because nothing ruins a good legend quite like bureaucracy. You rummage through your pack, searching for that last bit of dried fruit that has now become a delicacy, worthy of a Michelin star. Chewing it slowly, you watch the jungle come alive as the sun rises, a golden glow that seems to set every leaf on fire. It's hard to believe that beneath this beauty lies centuries of secrets, each one waiting for someone stubborn enough to find them. You think of the explorers who came before you, armed with nothing but compasses and blind optimism. Some of them never made it back. Their bones still rest somewhere in this green cathedral, a testament to the price of curiosity. Your guide, who may or may not believe half the stories he's told you, insists that the locals once performed rituals to honor the monkey god, sometimes involving offerings of fruit, sometimes blood. The details get a little fuzzy depending on who's telling the tale. Some old stories mention human sacrifices, but others suggest it was mostly a way to keep the local mosquitoes entertained. Either way, it's a reminder that belief can be a powerful thing, powerful enough to build temples, or powerful enough to get you killed. You shoulder your pack and push forward, eyes scanning for any sign of the legendary city. The ground rises beneath your feet, a gentle slope littered with fallen branches and leaves so thick they hide whatever might be lurking below. You remember reading that archaeologists often miss entire cities because they're hidden under centuries of growth. Imagine being so close to a discovery and walking right past it, like missing the exit on a long road trip, only to end up in the middle of nowhere with no cell service. You smirk at the thought. At least you're not alone in your ignorance. Suddenly your foot catches on something solid and you nearly pitch forward. Cursing under your breath, you kneel and brush aside the leaves. There it is, a stone staircase, its edges softened by time but unmistakably man-made. Your heart stutters in your chest. You run your fingers over the worn steps, feeling the indentations, left by countless feet. How many people climbed these stairs with offerings, prayers, or maybe just a really good story to tell? Historians still argue whether these were ceremonial paths or simple shortcuts through the jungle. You'd bet on a little of both. Human nature hasn't changed all that much in 500 years. You glance up and see a small structure at the top of the stairs, a platform, partially collapsed, with remnants of intricate carvings. The monkeys are there again, their faces stylized in that same mischievous way. They grin at you with toothy smirks that feel almost human, as if they're in on the joke. You can't help but laugh. Even in stone, these creatures refuse to be taken too seriously. You wonder what ceremonies took place here. Dances in the firelight, drums beating in time with the heartbeat of the forest. Maybe children ran up and down these steps while their parents prayed for good harvests or safe journeys. The place feels alive with memory, each stone humming with stories you can't quite hear. You half expect to see a priest in saffron robes step out from the shadows, holding a rattle carved from bone and whispering words you'll never understand. Instead, it's just you, the jungle, and the steady beat of your own heart. You take a deep breath, feeling the air thicken as the sun climbs higher. Sweat trickles down your back, and you're pretty sure that fish-scale insect repellent might not be such a bad idea after all. You smile, imagining yourself as a medieval apothecary hawking the latest in bug-deterring fashion. Try our new eau de perche, guaranteed to keep even the hungriest mosquito at bay. You climb the last step and stand on the platform, looking out over the jungle that stretches as far as the eye can see. Green upon green upon green, a never-ending sea of life. Somewhere out there, hidden in the shadows, the city waits. Or maybe it's waiting inside you, a place of wonder and mystery that no map can capture. You close your eyes, letting the sounds of the forest wash over you. The call of a distant bird, the rustle of leaves, the slow exhale of the earth itself. You know you're not the first to stand here, and you won't be the last. Still, in this moment, it feels like the world is holding its breath, waiting for you to take the next step. You tighten your pack straps, your resolve stronger than ever. The jungle may not give up its secrets easily, but you're ready to meet it on its own terms, one cautious footfall at a time. The lost city of the monkey god won't stay lost forever. You ease yourself down the far side of the platform, your boots sliding on loose moss as you descend. The air thickens, carrying with it the scent of damp earth, old stone, and the faint tang of something you can't quite name, like the aftertaste of a long-forgotten prayer. Vines tangle across your path, clutching at your legs as though they too are reluctant to let you pass. You push them aside, the leaves wet and cool against your skin, their tiny veins tracing delicate fractal patterns that make you think of capillaries and ancient scrolls. It's easy to forget that people lived here once. Families built homes and gardens, tended fires, sang songs that echoed into the night. The Spanish chroniclers wrote that this land was cursed, infested with demons and diseases that would eat a man from the inside out. No small detail to overlook on the old vacation brochures. Yet historians still argue over how many people actually called this place home. Some estimates reach as high as 20,000. Others claim only a few hundred souls clung to these hillsides. As always, the truth probably lies somewhere between, right there with your missing canteen and that sense of direction you never really had. You pause beside a crumbling wall, its stones carefully fitted together by hands long gone. The wall leans at an angle that makes you think of a drunken uncle at a wedding reception, stubbornly refusing to sit down. You trace a finger over the carvings, lines so fine you have to squint to see them. Stylized monkeys dance across the surface, some holding fruit, others brandishing sticks like tiny warriors. A smile tugs at the corner of your mouth. Even now, their antics feel as fresh as the day they were etched. Your guide, his face half in shadow beneath a tattered indigo hood, points to a small niche in the wall. Inside rests a ceremonial mask, its surface cracked but its eyes still fierce, like it's daring you to challenge it. You lean in closer, the faint smell of old wood and dried herbs curling into your nose. They say the priests wore these during the harvest festival, he whispers, his voice a hush of wind through the leaves, to scare away bad spirits, or maybe to scare the farmers into working harder. You can't help but snicker. Some things never change. Beyond the wall, the forest opens into a clearing bathed in dappled sunlight. The ground is littered with pottery shards and broken tiles, each piece a puzzle missing half its edges. You kneel and pick up a shard painted with a teal swirl, a stylized serpent, its body looping in a pattern that makes your head spin. You wonder who last touched this, whose fingers placed it into the kiln, whose eyes widened at the sight of it emerging, warm and whole, from the fire. The silence around you feels heavy with all the words they never had a chance to say. A breeze stirs the air, carrying with it the scent of smoke and wet leaves. You close your eyes, letting it wash over you. Maybe it's your imagination, or maybe it's the forest playing tricks again, but you swear you hear the faint echo of drums, a slow, steady beat that quickens as your heart picks up the rhythm. It's a sound that belongs to the ancients, yet it speaks to something deep inside you too, a call to remember that history isn't just words on a page, but blood and sweat and laughter. You stand and brush off your knees, your legs tingling, with the memory of sitting too long. The path ahead curves through a tangle of roots and moss-covered stones. Every step feels like walking on the bones of the past, each one humming with the weight of lives lived and lost. Historians still debate whether the city fell to disease, drought, or simple human stubbornness. You suspect it was all three, plus a healthy dose of bad luck. After all, even the greatest empires can be undone by a stubborn fungus and an untimely monsoon. Your guide stops suddenly, one hand raised. You follow his gaze and see a dark opening in the earth, a cave mouth half hidden by tangled vines. The air that seeps out of it is cool and heavy, carrying the scent of minerals and old secrets. This, he says, is where they kept the records, or so they say. You nod, your heart hammering like a drum in your chest. Inside, maybe you'll find something to explain the monkey god's legend, something that will make the long journey worth it. You duck your head and step inside, the darkness swallowing you, like a story you're not quite sure you want to finish. Your fingers trail along the rough walls, tracing the echoes of people who once carried torches and spoke words no one living can now pronounce. The air is thick with the smell of damp stone, and every sound, your breath, your heartbeat, the distant drip of water, seems amplified, like the cave itself is listening. Somewhere in the darkness, your guide's voice comes back to you. They say the monkey god still watches, waiting for the day someone will unlock his secrets. You can almost see him, perched on a ledge, his eyes gleaming gold, his grin wide enough to swallow the world. You smile because you know the truth. Some secrets aren't meant to be solved, only carried. As you move deeper into the cave, the walls narrow and twist, guiding you forward like the pages of a book. The darkness presses closer, the air cooler, now filled with the scent of moss and earth. You can't help but think about that lost city, about how it thrived and fell, and how, in its ruins, it still lives. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself for whatever waits in the next chamber. After all, the monkey god isn't going to reveal himself without a little effort, and maybe a few more mosquito bites. The air shifts, carrying with it the weight of centuries. You blink into the darkness, eyes adjusting to the gloom as your guide's torch flickers. The shadows dance on the walls like living memories, throwing shapes that almost, but not quite, resemble human forms. The floor is littered with fallen rocks and broken bits of pottery, as though the city itself tried to hold on a little too long before giving up. You tread carefully, each step crunching softly like an old man chewing dry bread. Your guide, his saffron cloak now tattered at the edges, points to a low shelf carved into the stone. On it sits a bundle wrapped in brittle cloth, bound with fraying twine that looks like it might snap if you so much as breathe too hard. You reach out, hands trembling just a little, like that time you accidentally clicked Reply All at work and unwrapped the bundle to reveal a delicate codex. The pages, thin as onion skin, hold a language you can't decipher. Loops and curls, jagged lines that could be curses or recipes for goat stew. Either way, you know this is the kind of thing historians argue about until their voices crack. Your fingers brush the parchment, and you swear it feels warm as if the stories inside still smolder with the breath of their creators. You can almost see them, scribes hunched over their work, their quills scratching secrets onto the page while the jungle pressed in around them. Some of these scribes were probably conscripts, unlucky farmers drafted into chronicling their city's slow demise, while others might have been true believers, convinced that every stroke of the pen was a prayer. Either way, their voices are silent now, leaving you to guess at their fears and hopes. You follow your guide deeper, your steps echoing in the narrow passage. The walls close in, rough stone brushing your shoulders, and you can feel the weight of the city above you, pressing down like a secret no one wants to share. You wonder what it must have been like to live here, to build and trade and celebrate, only to watch it all fade away. Some historians blame climate shifts that turned the rivers against them, while others mutter about curses and omens written in the stars. The truth, as usual, probably includes all of those, and maybe a few things no one's willing to admit. The torchlight catches on a carving so deep and intricate it seems to breathe. It's a stylized depiction of the monkey god himself, his grin wide and toothy, his eyes tiny pools of malice and glee. Around him, figures kneel in supplication, their bodies thin and fragile. One holds a basket of fruit, mangoes maybe, or something spikier, and another brandishes a staff topped with what looks suspiciously like a lizard's head. You chuckle under your breath because, let's be real, religion always finds a way to get weird. The monkey god's arms are raised, in a gesture that might be blessing or threat. It's hard to tell with these old gods. Some scholars claim the monkey god was a symbol of fertility, tied to the lush jungle that fed the city's growth. Others say he was a trickster, a cosmic prankster who delighted in leading people astray. A few more eccentric theories even suggest he was an ancient astronaut, though honestly that's probably just the History Channel getting bored on a Tuesday. What's certain is that his presence looms large even now, his laughter echoing through the ruins in a way that makes you shiver. Your guide shifts his weight, the torch's flame sputtering as he holds it higher. His voice drops to a near whisper. They say the last high priest went mad down here, he murmurs, eyes darting to the shadows. He locked himself in with his scrolls and his gold, chanting to the monkey god for salvation. No one knows what happened to him. You smile, because even in a place like this, a little melodrama is part of the package. Some say he's still here, his spirit wandering the tunnels, seeking someone foolish enough to listen. You can almost hear the old priest's voice, a dry rasp that drips with desperation and decay. Maybe he thought he could save his people, with words that if he wrote enough spells and prayers, the gods would intervene. Maybe he just went a little too deep, lost in the shadows of his own mind. It's a story as old as time, repeated in every culture. The wise man, driven to madness by the weight of knowledge. Historians still argue whether the priest's final acts were holy or heretical. You suspect they were a bit of both. The tunnel opens into a small chamber, walls lined with niches that once held offerings, pottery, fruit, maybe the occasional unlucky chicken. Now only dust remains, clinging to the air like a second skin. You run a finger along one niche, feeling the indentations of long-vanished objects. Each groove is a ghost of what once was, a reminder that even gods get lonely when no one's left to worship them. As you stand there, your breath quiets, and for a moment the darkness feels almost comforting. The torch flame bends and flickers, casting new shapes on the walls, shapes that might be monkeys or might just be your imagination. You let out a long sigh, because the city's secrets are like that, always shifting, always just out of reach. And yet, you can't help but chase them step by step, deeper into the jungle's embrace. You inch forward, the air growing thicker with every breath as though the walls themselves are trying to hold you back. The torchlight catches on another carving, a frieze that stretches across the chamber like a tangle of vines. It shows a procession, figures in elaborate headdresses, their robes painted in russet and saffron, each holding a different offering for the monkey god. One carries a bowl of fruit, another a live parrot, whose feathers are rendered in delicate shell gold, and yet another holds a long staff topped with what looks like a snake's head. You can almost smell the incense wafting from the ancient braziers, the bitter scent mixing with the jungle's own damp, earthy perfume. You trace the line of figures with your eyes, counting 12 in all. They march solemnly toward a massive idol at the center, its face twisted in a grin that's half holy and half hungry. Some scholars believe this ceremony was performed every year at the beginning of the rainy season, a plea to the gods for mercy, or maybe just a bribe to keep the crops alive. Other historians think it was a final desperate attempt to hold the city together as famine and disease closed in. One thing they all agree on: it didn't work. A sudden shift in the air brings a faint, musty smell that makes you wrinkle your nose. You glance down and notice a pile of broken pottery, jars that once held offerings now shattered and hollow. You imagine a priest's hands trembling as he set them down, hoping for a miracle that never came. There's a sad intimacy in the way they lie scattered, like a family dinner where everyone left the table early. You wonder how many people fled the city and how many stayed behind, clinging to hope until the very end. Your guide motions you forward, his indigo cloak catching a faint breeze. He leads you into a smaller alcove, where a single figure dominates the wall. This one is different, larger, bolder, as though the artist poured every last drop of paint and faith into it. The monkey god is depicted here in a fiery saffron hue, his eyes wide, his mouth open in a silent roar. Around him, flames twist like living things, consuming the edges of the painting. Some believe this image represents the city's destruction, the god's wrath unleashed upon his own people. Others suggest it was a warning, that devotion carried too far can burn everything you love. The debate rages on, and probably always. Will you shift your weight, feeling the cool stone beneath your hand? A shiver runs through you as your guide begins to tell you the tale of the final days. According to legend, if you can trust the kind of legends whispered by firelight, the priests gathered in this chamber as the jungle pressed in, their prayers growing more frantic with each passing night. They recited incantations older than memory, their voices cracking like dry branches. Some say they offered sacrifices, fruit, birds, even a few unlucky goats, hoping to buy the monkey god's favor. But in the end, the jungle didn't care. Vines crawled through the city's streets, roots split stone, and disease spread like gossip in a medieval tavern. A tremor of movement draws your attention to the edge of the chamber. You see a small stone bowl, its rim lined with tiny carvings, of monkeys in every possible pose, dancing, fighting, even playing what looks suspiciously like medieval charades. You can't help but smile at the thought that, even at the height of a crisis, someone took the time to add a little humor. It's the kind of detail that historians rarely mention, too small to matter, too human to ignore. But here it is, a reminder that even in the darkest times, laughter finds a way. You reach for the bowl, your fingers brushing the cool stone. It feels heavy in your hand, as though it carries the weight of every offering, every whispered prayer. You imagine the people who once held it, trembling farmers, desperate mothers, scribes with ink-stained hands. Did they really believe that this little vessel could save them? Or did they just need to feel like they were doing something, anything, in the face of forces they couldn't control? Historians still argue about whether these rituals were acts of faith or acts of fear. You suspect they were both. The torch sputters, casting shadows that crawl across the walls like living things. You feel the darkness press closer, a silent witness to centuries of human hopes and failures. The monkey god's painted eyes seem to follow you, his grin wide and knowing. You swallow hard, suddenly aware of every breath you take. It's as if the city itself is waiting for you to understand, or maybe to become just another footnote in its long, crumbling story. Your guide's voice breaks the silence, low and reverent. This is where they made their last stand, he says. The final prayers, the final sacrifices, the final songs. His tone carries the weight of history, but also a note of weariness, like a tour guide who's told this story one too many times. You nod, feeling the sweat on your brow, the ache in your feet. You've come so far, but there's still more to see. Still more shadows to chase, more questions to ask, and maybe, just maybe, one last secret waiting in the darkness. The darkness in the chamber grows deeper, pressing on your shoulders like the hush of a cathedral. The torchlight flickers, sending shadows skittering across the carved friezes, making the painted monkeys seem to dance. You step carefully over. Broken tiles, each footfall sending up a faint puff of dust that sparkles like gold in the flame's glow. It's easy to imagine the echo of a priest's chant lingering here, a last breath of hope fading into the jungle night. Your guide's voice is softer now, almost conspiratorial. He points to a corner of the room where the plaster has cracked and peeled, revealing an older layer beneath. There, faint but unmistakable, is the figure of a warrior in saffron and russet, holding a short sword and a round shield. He's depicted, mid-stride, as if stepping straight out of the wall into your world. Some historians argue that this warrior was a guardian of the temple, or perhaps a legendary hero whose name has long been lost. Others think he was just another piece of propaganda. Reminder that even in a time of desperation, the city's leaders needed to project strength. You wonder if that sword ever saw real battle, or if it was just for show. You can almost hear the clash of metal, the cries of frightened citizens, the steady beat of a war drum that must have echoed down these halls. But there's no sign of blood on the floor, no skeletal remains clutching rusty blades, just this painted warrior frozen in time, his face set in a grimace that's half fierce, half uncertain, like he wasn't sure if he was protecting his people or simply following orders. That's the thing about history. Sometimes the lines blur, and even the heroes can look a little cowardly if you squint hard enough. Your guide kneels and brushes away a handful of dirt, revealing another detail that takes your breath away. A line of footprints pressed into the clay like a signature. Small ones and large ones all leading toward the exit. Maybe a family fleeing the city's collapse. Maybe priests carrying their last offerings. Or maybe it was just a bunch of kids playing tag in the temple. Who's to say? Historians still debate whether these footprints belong to refugees, workers, or even animals. But the truth is, it hardly matters. The prints are here like a whisper from the past, telling you that someone else was here once, and they left in a hurry. A draft of cool air brushes your cheek, and you realize that the chamber narrows into a darkened corridor. The guide motions you forward, his teal cloak swaying gently as he steps into the gloom. You follow, your pulse quickening. The torchlight catches on a curious detail, a set of stone hooks along the wall, each carved with tiny animal heads. A monkey, a jaguar, a serpent, from some hang scraps of cloth, their colors long since faded. Perhaps they once held ceremonial garlands or the belongings of priests, maybe even the last desperate offerings of a city on the brink. Some historians say these hooks were purely decorative, a sign of the city's wealth and artistry. Others believe they were a grim reminder of the sacrifices demanded by the gods. You guess both could be true. The corridor opens up again into a small antechamber, its ceiling low and arched like the belly of a beast. Here, the walls are covered with scenes of everyday life. Farmers carrying baskets of maize, women grinding grain, children playing with simple toys. The images are tender, almost domestic, a reminder that even in the shadow of disaster, life went on. You can almost hear the laughter of children, the clatter of clay pots, the quiet conversations of mothers who hoped that tomorrow would be better. But in the background of each scene, the monkey god lurks, his grin a constant reminder that the city's fate lay in his hands. A chill runs through you, as though the air itself remembers. You imagine the priest standing here, clutching their saffron and russet robes, muttering prayers that felt more like pleas. Did they wonder if their god had abandoned them? Did they think about leaving, or did they cling to their rituals like a life raft in a rising tide? Scholars still debate whether the people of the monkey god city fled in panic or stayed to fight. Some believe the priests insisted on staying until the bitter end, convinced that a final sacrifice might turn the tide. Others argue that everyone simply ran, hoping the jungle would hide them from the wrath of their own beliefs. Your guide clears his throat, drawing your attention back. This was their last refuge, he says, voice low, the place where the final prayers were spoken. You nod, feeling the weight of that history settle on your chest like a stone. You imagine the flicker of candles, the sound of chanting, voices, the smell of incense mixed with sweat and fear. You wonder if those prayers were ever answered, or if the jungle simply claimed them as it claimed everything else. You take one last look at the painted walls, tracing the fine brown ink, outlines that have survived centuries of neglect. You think about the children who played here, the priests who prayed, the families who fled, and you realize that even in this place of ruin, there's a kind of fragile beauty, a reminder that people lived here, loved here, and believed in something greater than themselves. Maybe that's the real legacy of the monkey god city. Not the gold, not the power, but the stubborn hope that refused to die. And as you follow your guide toward the final chamber, that hope is the only thing lighting your way. The sun begins to wane outside, filtering through the dense canopy in soft, golden beams that dust the forest floor like scattered embers. You step into the open again, leaving the shadowed chambers behind, feeling the humid air wrap around you, like a thick velvet cloak. The distant calls of unseen birds echo faintly, a natural symphony that's strangely soothing after the weight of stone and silence. You pause, brushing a stray leaf from your russet cloak, and the moment feels suspended, between what was and what might never be again. Ahead lies the lost city's heart, a towering pyramid, its weathered steps cloaked in moss and vines, reaching ambitiously toward the sky, defiant despite the centuries of neglect. You imagine the sweat and toil of countless hands that built it, the rhythmic pounding of stone on stone, the chants rising in unison with each layer added. Yet, as you gaze upward, a peculiar thought strikes you. Did they build this to reach the gods or to hide from them? Historians are still torn over whether these massive structures were temples of worship or monuments to fear, but either way, their grandeur whispers of a civilization that once dared to touch the divine. The air grows cooler as a gentle breeze stirs, carrying the faint scent of earth and forgotten rain. You spot delicate orchids clinging to the pyramid's side, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the muted greens and browns around them. A monkey chatters somewhere nearby, a reminder that life persists here, wild and unruly, much like the city's legacy. You catch yourself smiling at the thought. This place is less a ruin and more a living memory, thriving beneath the thick canopy, stubborn as ever. Your hand brushes against the rough stone, the texture telling tales of hands that shaped it with tools long vanished. You remember the guide stories of explorers who searched tirelessly, some lost to the jungle's embrace, others driven mad by fever or obsession. You think about the scientists who risked everything to uncover this hidden world, and the indigenous peoples whose ancestors' whispers still echo through these trees. It's a mosaic of voices, some loud, some fading, all intertwined. As twilight deepens, fireflies emerge, flickering like tiny stars come to earth. Their gentle glow illuminates the surrounding foliage, casting a magical haze over the scene. You lean back against the ancient stone, feeling the slow, steady beat of your heart sync with the jungle's rhythm. The lost city might never reveal all its secrets, but its mystery is part of its charm, an eternal invitation to dream, to wonder, to keep searching. The last light fades, and you close your eyes, the sounds of the jungle becoming a lullaby. You imagine the city's stories folding into the night like a whispered legend, safe and sound beneath the watchful eyes of the monkey god. And as your breath slows, the world softens around you, drifting gently toward dreams where history and myth dance hand in hand. End of script. Sweet dreams.